On most mornings, the rooster's crows signaled the start of the day on the farm. But just after 5 a.m., still shrouded in darkness, Eric woke to the sound of frantic cackling from the chicken coop. His first thought was of a predator, perhaps a fox or a stray dog, having breached the coop. It was rare but not impossible. With a groan, he pulled on his boots, grabbed the rifle he kept for such occasions, and made his way out into the chilly morning. The hens were still in an uproar when Eric arrived. Their distressed clucking filled the air as they milled around nervously, a clear sign that something had spooked them. He noticed the most noise was coming from a trio of speckled hens huddled in the far corner of the coop, his most reliable egg layers. Shining his flashlight toward them, Eric scanned the area for any signs of movement. There was nothing, no flicker of fur, no shadow slipping away into the night. Still, Eric wasn't convinced. Predators could be crafty, waiting just beyond the fence for an opportunity to strike. He considered firing a warning shot, a loud crack to scare off any would-be intruder. But then he paused. If the culprit wasn't an animal but a human thief, things could quickly get complicated. Eric didn't relish the thought of explaining the hasty shot in court later. Better to be certain before taking action. "Is there anybody out there?" he bellowed, his voice cutting through the stillness. The hens fell silent, and for a moment, everything was still. Eric shone his flashlight further into the shadows, straining to see what had caused the disturbance. Suddenly, a violent rustling broke the quiet, followed by the unmistakable cry of an animal in pain. Heart pounding, Eric rushed forward, hoping to save whatever unfortunate chicken had been snatched by the intruder. He caught a glimpse of it then, a streak of movement darting across the field, low to the ground and fast. It was a fox, its lithe body disappearing into the darkness, completely unhampered by the prize it carried. Eric cursed under his breath, knowing the predator had made its escape, leaving him with nothing to do but count the cost in the morning light. Eric fired his rifle, aiming toward the disturbance he had glimpsed. The shot missed its mark. There was no cry, no thud, no sign of a hit. Frustrated, he fired again, less with hope of hitting the swift, nearly invisible target and more as an outlet for his irritation. The hens erupted in loud agreement, their cackles echoing his rage. Even the normally indifferent rooster added his voice to the cacophony. Checking his watch, Eric noted it was already 6:30, and the first hints of dawn were streaking the horizon. Shining his flashlight around the henhouse one last time, he confirmed there were no remaining threats, then headed back inside to dress for the day. By the time Eric returned to the henhouse, the sun had risen, and things seemed calm again. He performed a head count and quickly realized something was wrong. 2 hens were missing. His stomach sank, but his concern turned to confusion when he found the missing birds happily pecking at the long grass just outside the enclosure. Relieved but exasperated, he realized they'd escaped through a gap in the fence. Luring the delinquents back inside with a handful of feed, Eric made a mental note to repair the fencing later. As he started gathering eggs, a peculiar sight stopped him in his tracks. In the far corner where the earlier commotion had cantered, Eric found an anomaly. Nestled among the usual brown and white eggs was one that was unmistakably black. It was slightly larger than the others, but its dark color was the real mystery. Eric frowned, turning the strange egg over in his hands. In his 15 years of farming, he had never seen anything like it. He wasn't new to poultry care. He'd started with 3 Sussex hens and a rooster as an afterthought when a neighbor had offered them. Over the years, his small flock had grown to include a variety of breeds, each contributing their unique traits. But none of them had ever produced something like this. The black egg defied explanation. Was it a product of the earlier disturbance? A sign of something unusual about his flock? Eric had no answers, but as he stood in the quiet henhouse, he realized this was no ordinary morning. The mystery of the black egg had only just begun. A pair of regal Brahma hens and his favorites, the flamboyant red stars, had transformed Eric's small hobby into a thriving side business. Selling eggs at the local farmers market and to small grocers became routine. Over time, Eric discovered each hen had a distinct personality, and what began as a chore turned into a secret source of joy. He delighted in the way they scampered to him when he called, their friendships and pecking order rivalries, and the unmatched satisfaction of raising his own chicks from eggs. After more than a decade of raising and breeding chickens, Eric had become well-versed in his flock's habits and quirks. When he discovered the uncanny black egg, his first concern was that one of his hens might be sick. Yet none of the flock showed any signs of illness. They eagerly devoured the morning's feed and scratched contentedly in their run, as lively as ever. Eric recalled hearing about Marans, a breed known for laying dark brown eggs, but his flock had no known connection to that bloodline. The black egg was a mystery, and Eric decided to investigate. Apart from its color, the egg felt perfectly normal, warm, firm, and intact. On a whim, he decided to place it in the incubator, curious to see what might happen. The worst-case scenario? It wouldn't hatch, but the possibility of uncovering the truth was too intriguing to ignore. Eric didn't stop at the black egg. He selected several of the largest, healthiest-looking eggs from the coop to incubate alongside it. He knew the process was often hit or miss, but the black egg's unusual appearance captivated him. To assess its quality, Eric turned to the time-tested method of candling, where a light is shone through an egg to examine its contents and determine if it's fertile. However, handling the black egg presented an immediate challenge. Its shell was too dark for his standard light to penetrate. Frustration set in, but Eric wasn't ready to give up. He considered using a stronger light but hesitated, wary of generating too much heat and potentially harming the egg. Then inspiration struck. Eric returned to the house and rummaged through his supplies, retrieving a simple household item, a toilet paper roll. Using it as a shield, he directed a powerful torchlight through the egg, preventing excess heat while illuminating its interior. Squinting carefully, Eric's eyes widened as he spotted what he'd hoped for, the faint outline of the tiniest beginnings of life. Relieved and intrigued, Eric placed the black egg in its own designated spot within the incubator, treating it with special care. It joined the others, each carefully arranged, as Eric began the wait to see what secrets the mysterious egg might reveal. After deciding the fate of the black egg, Eric turned his attention back to the henhouse, where a small but necessary repair awaited him. He approached cautiously, inspecting the area near the fence. To his dismay, he found the unmistakable paw prints of a fox, clearly visible in the dirt. The gap in the fence was too small for the fox to have squeezed through, but then Eric noticed something else, smaller prints that led directly into the henhouse. Intrigued, Eric followed these odd, triangular prints, which overlapped with the fox tracks but showed a distinct pattern. A few steps away from the henhouse, he found something even stranger, a pitch-black feather on the ground. The mystery deepened. As he continued to trace the fox's path, he stumbled upon a scene of carnage. It was clear the fox had found its meal here, but there was little left of the unfortunate victim. Just a few more black feathers and some scattered bones, with nothing to identify the creature. Eric stood frozen for a moment, piecing things together. He speculated that the fox must have surprised a different bird species, chasing it toward the henhouse. In a desperate bid for safety, the bird had laid a single egg, possibly the black egg, before being caught by the fox, which likely attacked once the bird was immobilized by its maternal instincts. The black egg, he realized, was the sole remnant of the bird's brief refuge before the predator struck. A sense of melancholy settled over Eric for the rest of the day, but it also strengthened his resolve. The unknown victim could have been one of his own hens, Millie, La, Hattie, or Tika, any one of them. He couldn't bear the thought of the fox returning to target his flock again. The discovery gave him a renewed sense of urgency to repair and reinforce the fence, ensuring that it was truly fox-proof. Eric built a secondary fence, this time with a dense, durable mesh that would hopefully keep the fox at bay. He also added a monitoring system similar to a baby monitor, so he could keep an eye on the henhouse from inside the house. With the mystery of the black egg still on his mind, he knew it was crucial to protect his chickens and to see what, if anything, would hatch from that strange egg. Eric set the incubator to the same temperature and humidity levels he used for hatching chickens. He figured it was best not to overcomplicate things. With 10 other eggs inside, he isolated the black egg, uncertain of its origins and the possibility that the mother might have been ill. Eric made a point of checking on the black egg several times a day. His intuition told him it might hatch sooner than the others, and he wanted to be ready for whatever might happen. He kept the humidity on the high end of the acceptable range for chickens, hoping it would be just right for whatever was developing inside. With chicken eggs, it's typically recommended not to handle them too often, as frequent disturbances can disrupt the nurturing environment they need. But after 2 weeks, Eric could no longer resist. He needed to know if anything was happening inside the black egg. Had it survived the unusual circumstances of its creation? Was the incubator doing its job properly? These questions weighed heavily on his mind as he gently picked up the black egg, wearing gloves for added care. Once again, he set up his makeshift candling system using the torch and a toilet roll, allowing him to shine light through the egg without overheating it. At first glance, the egg looked even darker than before. For a moment, doubt crept into Eric's mind. Maybe nothing was inside. But as he held the egg to the light, the walls gradually became translucent, revealing a tiny, fragile embryo inside. A wave of reassurance washed over him. It had grown, it was developing, and there was still hope for it to hatch. A few days later, Eric made slight adjustments to the incubator, raising the temperature and tweaking the humidity levels to signal that it was almost time for hatching. He spent more time in the shed, eagerly awaiting signs of life. And soon, the first crack appeared in one of the chicken eggs. A tiny beak broke through, signaling the beginning of a new life. For Eric, this was always one of the most magical moments of raising chickens, the struggle of a newborn chick fighting its way out of the shell. Soft, fluffy, and full of life, they were exactly like the adorable chicks you see in Easter commercials. As the days passed, Eric's excitement grew, but so did his anticipation for what the black egg might bring. After the chicks had hatched, Eric carefully transferred them to the brooder pen, ensuring they had an optimal environment with space to explore and eat on their own. The last chick emerged on day 21, leaving only the black egg remaining in the incubator. Eric's worries about the black egg resurfaced. What if he had ruined its chances by taking it out of the incubator the second time? What if the creature inside was too weak or deformed to survive? Each day, Eric checked on the black egg, hoping it might thrive like the other eggs. But as the days went by, doubt gnawed at him. Was it too late for the black egg? Should he just give up and remove it? After much deliberation, Eric decided to raise both the temperature and humidity slightly. It was a small adjustment, but he held on to hope that it might make a difference. From that moment, he checked on the egg every 2 hours, anxious for any sign of life. Then, one morning, as Eric prepared to leave, he noticed something. The black egg moved on its own. He froze, watching intently as the egg wobbled. Was this the moment? Would he finally see what was inside? Eric waited, his heart pounding, as a tiny crack appeared on the shell. He saw a flutter of movement behind the crack. The creature inside seemed to be tapping away with its beak. It was struggling to break free. Eric gently reached forward and widened the crack with his finger. Tap, tap, tap. The crack widened, and then, to Eric's amazement, he saw the flat bill of a duckling emerging from the egg. A duck. Eric carefully broke away more of the shell, revealing the duckling's dark gray head. It struggled to free its tiny wings from the remnants of the egg. Eric couldn't help but be enchanted as he watched, his eyes brimming with tears. That poor duck, Eric thought, had given everything to leave behind this beautiful gray-black duckling. It was bittersweet. The last act of the mysterious mother had been to give him this little creature. Ironically, Eric had once thought about adding ducks to his farm but had never followed through. Now, fate had decided for him. When the duckling was finally free, Eric carefully moved it to the brooder pen, where it would join the rest of the newly hatched chicks. A few weeks later, Eric bought a few more ducklings from a nearby farmer. He set up a separate pen with a little splash pool for the new arrivals. They were all Cayuga ducks, a breed known for laying black eggs early in the season. Eric couldn't help but laugh at the unexpected surprise. Life had a funny way of making things happen.